Yay! Okay, it finally worked. So, welcome everyone to the Beta Reader and Critique Partner workshop for the Evergreen Writing Oasis. Yay! Okay. All right, so my name is Erin. I am a romance and fantasy author, as well as an author tuber, and I'm here today with Jenna. Yay! Okay, pointing the correct direction. Yeah. Oh, Jen, they say there's no audio on you now.
Jen, they say there's no audio on you now.
Why? It worked in the test.
There's no audio on her?
Not on Jenna, no.
Can you hear her?
I can hear her.
Okay, give me a minute.
All right, we're looking into it. Woohoo! Oh, goodness. Okay, now I can't hear her. Oh, I hear her again.
Can they hear her?
Can you guys hear Jenna now? No, no.
Okay,
No.
Did they hear her earlier?
No.
Okay, what's going on?
Iggy, you want to come say hi to the people? Okay, Jenna will introduce herself when things are working. So basically our plan is we'll go over the info on the beta readers and critique partners, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A period. So if you have any questions for us, you can leave them in the comments below and I will attempt to not miss them. If you tag me, or if you tag me in specific questions, that'll be easier for me to see them when I scroll back through the comments. So basically, for critique partners, a critique partner is literally just a fellow writer that is going to read and critique your work. It's not anything more complicated than that. Jenna can't say the next part. Can we hear Jenna now?
Yeah, this says it's sending her audio through.
Yeah, everyone still says that Jenna's muted.
Okay, so it's not this end because this is showing her, when she's talking, showing her audio get pushed through.
Okay, yeah, I'm really not sure because it's working on her end and it's working on our end. Like, I can hear her just fine.
Okay.
She did a thing. Is it working now? Dania says, try unplugging the headphone.
But you can hear her. That's the thing. You can hear her. So
yeah.
It's not her end.
She says she already tested it on her end.
Yeah, no, it's not her end for sure.
Oh, Arya, during my live stream when we couldn't hear Jenna, we brought out the speakers and I literally just held it up to the microphone.
That happened last time, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Should we get the speaker?
I'll
I'll just sit here and hold her.
I'm so confused though because we've done this recently and it worked just fine.
Yeah, it worked the last time I recorded stuff with other people. So, technology just likes to do this. Every single time I stream, doesn't matter how much we fixed it the time before or during the testing.
Let's say crowd can't hear other person. Is she miming?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. Arya, Chad is attempting working his technology magic. Just bring the speakers. It'll be fine. You need Butters to lift her up like Simba. I don't have a cat within reach, or I would do so. Iggy, come here. Come here. Come here. Oh my God, you are a hefty boy. There. You're our intermission. Say hi to the nice people. Here you are. He's like, I'm done intermissioning now.
I'm on my way.
Okay.
What we can do.
Oh, he's talking in the background.
Okay, we'll do this, and then I'm going to see if I can fix the issue so you don't have to do this for the whole stream.
Okay.
Jenna
We're going to do the speakers, and then he's going to work on stuff. Okay, so continuing on for the moment. So what should you look for when you're trying to find a critique partner? And basically, you should have a pretty good idea of if you two vibe together. You want someone that is a similar writing skill to you, and you want someone that is writing something that you are going to enjoy reading because you're going to spend a lot of time with that person's work. So you want to make sure that it's something where you don't want to die every time you have to open the document. Let me check the comments. He's probably speaker now. Is it? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear myself.
All right.
This is as close as it gets. We might have to just flip this around back and forth as she talks until I get this fixed.
Okay, I'm gonna spin the mic. Go.
Hello.
Can they hear it?
Can they hear me?
Well, we can hear a little bit of Jenna. That's
Here.
I can yell.
okay. They can hear you. Go.
I'm just gonna yell really loud. So how do you find critique partners? I can hear myself and it's so distracting. Hold on. How do you find critique partners? Okay, so we live in the age of the internet, so it's really easy to find critique partners these days. If I'm slurring or sounding weird, it's only because I can hear the echo of myself in my headphones.
Here, I fixed it.
It's very distracting. Hold on. You know what? Hell with it. Okay. So one of the most obvious ways to find critique partners is through social media. That's how I have found a lot of my critique partners. There's the Am Writing hashtag over on Twitter. There's a whole writing group available on Tumblr, Facebook. Instagram has Bookstagram. I'm sure there's a writer equivalent over on Instagram. So social media is a very obvious way to connect with other writers. There are also writing groups available on the internet. There's also writing groups available in person, like at your local library or at different universities, things like that, rec centers, all that good stuff. Basically, you usually find critique partners by making friends with other writers. And so the more you mingle with other writers, whether it's on the internet or in person, the more chance or an opportunity you'll have to recruit critique partners. You can also get references from people if your writer friends have good critique partners that write in the same genre as you do. They can refer said critique partner to you and you guys can mingle. It's also possible to get a professional critique, which is where a published writer or an editor, someone like that, offers critique services and you can pay them to critique your book as opposed to swapping manuscripts for a critique. Erin Kinsella here on the stream has professional critique services, so you could always hit her up. And circling back to writing groups, I have a exclusive writing group available through my Patreon called Cyborg Central that has an entire channel devoted to finding critique partners. So those are some very relevant options for finding critique partners. I hope that you guys can hear me.
Bringing the mic back. Okay, so I saw something about finding people on Goodreads. Yes, you can absolutely do that. There are writing and beta reader and probably critique groups on Goodreads, so you can find people there. Yes, and if you can't make friends, you're just going to have to work on that. Join groups. You'll find somebody. It'll be okay. I promise. Okay, so how does the critique partner process typically work? So basically, you're going to have to discuss with your critique partner how you want this process to go. Sometimes you'll be exchanging single chapters. Sometimes you'll be giving them a fully done manuscript. It just depends on what works best for you guys. Basically, you will allow them access to the document. They will make comments on pretty much anything from, character voice, grammar, pacing, really anything that they want. This is different from beta readers because beta readers are just going to be reading and then answering questions at the end of their reading section. And critique partners are going to be offering you feedback the whole way through. Oh yeah, or you can hire someone to do a critique, and then it's a very simple process. You just pay them and they do work. Jenna, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, hold on. I was going to say that the critique process, I like to liken it to kind of a mini edit. It in no way replaces the professional edit. You still need to hire a professional editor, but it's similar in the sense that they are going to leave comments in the document itself. And often they will include some kind of summary or write-up at the end of the process to go over recurring issues and recurring strengths. So it is similar to the professional edit in that way, except on a much smaller scale.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on, how do you know if a critique partner is a good fit? And how do you leave it? If it's not working? You know a critique partner is fit if you are happy with their feedback, simply put. And that could go in both directions. For example, when I say happy with your feedback, I don't mean, oh my gosh, they love my book. It's just glowing praise endlessly. That's nice, but you're not enlisting a critique partner for an ego stroke. You're enlisting them for critiques. So it's great if they're enjoying your book, but if you're getting nothing but praise, the odds are they're not at the same skill level as you are. So maybe they can't notice mistakes that you're making because your book is not flawless. Let's just get that right out of the way. Either that or they're lying to you and they don't want to tell you where the issues are because they feel bad. So it shouldn't be exclusively glowing praise. At the same time, they shouldn't be heckling you and leaving comments like, this is a steaming pile of crap. You don't want either of those extremes. You want someone who is encouraging and supportive, a writer friend, but you also want to be learning from the experience and improving your manuscript through it. So finding that appropriate middle ground is what I would recommend. Finding, feedback that you're happy with because you're growing from it without, getting dragged through the dirt. And leaving, it's kind of like anything else. Just be honest with the person and say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate all the work you've done thus far, but I'm looking for something different from the critique process. And this is where you insert what you're looking for. Say something like, I would like more help on world building, and it doesn't really seem like that's your forte. Or I would like to work with someone who is a bit more well-versed in my genre. Just be honest about what you're looking for. Maybe, you're not reading the book quick enough for me. Just, be honest about it in a tactful, kind way and let them know you appreciate their help thus far, but you're going to go find someone else. And that's that. If they are a mature adult, they will handle it well. It shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, so when should you recruit critique partners? You can recruit them at any stage of the writing process, but prior to sending your manuscript to the professional editor. So if you want to do critique partners before beta readers or after beta readers, that is entirely up to you. There's not really any hard and fast rules about that. I will usually have multiple critique partners, and one of them will read over as I'm writing the book, and then I will have another one read over it once I've done a round of self-edits, and they'll get a completed manuscript, and then they'll get to read it as like a complete story. So it's very different for each of my critique partners, the experience that they're having with my book, and I think that helps to have it being looked at the different stages.
I completely agree, and I do pretty much the exact same thing. So our different processes align. Yes. So the next question is, how many critique partners should you have? That's totally up to you. It's a judgment call. You can have as many critique partners as you want or you feel you need. Both Erin and I, we discussed this earlier, our processes are almost identical, and we like to have 2 to 3 critique partners. That's what works for us. Any more than that is very overwhelming for us. And having just one, for me, makes me feel nervous. Like I want multiple eyes on my manuscript, and I want to know that I'm getting, as much feedback as possible without feeling overwhelmed by it. So I prefer to have 2 or 3, but ultimately it's up to you. I've known people who had like 8 critique partners. If that floats your boat, go for it. But I could not hang with that.
Do we have any opinion on critique partners versus critique groups?
Oh, me? Again, that's a judgment call. I know several people who are in critique groups where they all kind of swap their manuscripts among one another. I think that's fine if you have enough friends who are writing the same genre or well-versed in the same genres. All of my friends write completely different genres, so that wouldn't work for me. But if you're lucky enough where it's like, hey, we all write dark fantasy, let's swap manuscripts, then I say go for it, make it work.
Okay. Spin me back. Okay, so do you need a critique partner? And technically, you don't have to have one if you don't want one, but it is a very, very, very good idea to have a couple of them.
Yeah. You don't want to be that person who's like, oh, I don't need any feedback. My writing is perfect. You could be the most talented writer in the world. Your manuscript is not perfect. Get a few pairs of eyes on it. It'll just, it'll help you out. And it'll make the professional edit a lot less of a blow to the gut, because you've had a few people go over it first.
Yep.
Okay. Why are critique partners so important? Let me count the ways. Okay. So the biggest thing, at least in my opinion, is that critique partners typically have different strengths than you do. Critique partners are coming from different areas of expertise. So for example, if you had a critique group, someone in the group might be really great at dialogue. Someone might be really great at pacing. You might have a grammar nut in the group. You might have someone who's amazing at world building. When you have this situation, you can feed off of one another's strengths, which will in turn make each of you a much more well-rounded writer. So it behooves you to recruit multiple critique partners so that you guys can suck the talents out of one another. Another reason critique partners are important is that you're spending a lot of time writing this book. You're very passionate about the book. Those are great things. But because of that, you're going to be too close to your work. And when you're too close to your work, it's a lot harder to notice the mistakes. It's a lot harder to notice if you have crutch words, if you are making repeat mistakes. Critique partners will point this kind of stuff out to you, and then suddenly it's like a neon sign everywhere. It's like, wow, I didn't realize I was using that word over and over and over again. That's what critique partners.
Wait. Wait.
We're back.
Is it...
Hang on.
Jenna, wait.
Huh?
The cord for the speaker pulled out. Willow and Iggy are having a loud disagreement. I was trying to get hold of the speaker so I could hold it while Chad intervened, and my arms aren't long enough. Okay, so they've stopped fighting. Anywho, let's continue on.
Wait, what was the last thing you heard?
Before the troubleshooting, I think
Okay.
it's around the moral support-ish.
I'll continue with troubleshooting.
Okay.
Basically, writer friends, critique partners in theory are supposed to be writer friends, which means that you should be able to go to them to troubleshoot your manuscript, to say, hey, look, I'm stuck on a scene and I don't know what to do. You guys can bounce ideas back and forth. That's what they're there for. They're also great moral support. Again, in theory, if they are your critique partner, it's because they like the genre you're writing. They think you're a talented writer and they believe in you. So when you have those inevitable days where you feel like a total, you have imposter syndrome, you feel like a total hack, and you're like, oh, my writing's bad. You go to your critique partners and they're like, shut up, you can do it, you're amazing. The last reason that critique partners are so imperative is because you need eyes on your work before it's published. You should never publish a book that has not been read by anyone. And I also wouldn't recommend publishing a book that has only been read by an editor. The editing process is crucial. You should absolutely hire an editor, but you should definitely have other people read the book first because you need those opinions.
Okay, on to beta readers. Let's lift that out. There we go. Okay, so what is a beta reader? Beta readers are literally just readers. They do not have to be writers. They don't have to have any particular skills. They just have to enjoy reading your genre. And they are typically volunteers. You don't have to pay them to read your work, although that is an option if you are really struggling to find people to give you feedback. But in general, beta readers, just readers who like what you write. Simple as that.
That's the biggest difference between critique partners and beta readers is that critique partners should be fellow writers. Otherwise, it would be really weird to have someone leaving comments telling you how to write your book if they don't know how to write a book. Beta readers are just that. They just have to be readers. So they don't have to have any writing expertise or writing experience because their whole job is to let you know whether or not your book is good and entertaining, and you don't have to be a writer to know if a book is entertaining. So how does the beta reader process work? This, again, depends on the writer and their process. I'm going to go through my process. It's very similar to Erin's, and just understand that it can vary from writer to writer, so you don't have to do this identically. I like to recruit beta readers in cycles of 10. So I'll have 10 beta readers at a time. For the first cycle, I will either send them one chapter at a time or chunks of chapters at a time, and then they will receive some kind of questionnaire asking questions about the chunk that they've read, asking them what their favorite part was, what their least favorite part was anything confusing, was anything boring, how would they rate that section, what did they think of this character, what did they think of this scene. It's all 100% subjective, and it's all to get feedback of how readers relate to the material. You can send the questionnaire via email or Google Docs or something like that, or you can have an interview with them, essentially, where you're chatting with them online and you're asking them the questions and they're responding directly to you. It's whatever works for you. I do a cycle of 10 beta readers, and then I implement the feedback they've given me. So if, for example, a bunch of beta readers didn't understand a particular scene, after I'm done with that cycle, I fix that scene. Then I do another cycle of beta readers, and the process repeats itself. Usually by the time I do my last cycle, I will be sending them massive chunks of the book, maybe like 10, 15 chapters at a time, and questionnaires attached with that, because at that point, the book should be mostly fine-tuned and edited. But usually with the first cycle, the chunks are much smaller, so I can get more in-depth feedback. So basically, as the cycles go on, the feedback gets a little bit more generalized.
All right, so my process is, like Jenna said, very similar to hers. I still typically will send smaller batches as I go through, but I might only have like 3 rounds of beta readers. I think that's really the only difference. And I think we talk later. Let me just double check. Oh yeah, so you can kind of decide what works best for you and what works best for your beta readers when you're getting the feedback. If you're doing a questionnaire, you can either do it as a live interview where they'll read and then they'll come and talk to you about all of these things, or you can give them the questions up front or at the end of the chapter. I prefer the interview. I feel like I get a little bit more feedback, but I am flexible. I realize that not everyone has the time to set aside to read and then to come talk to me about it afterwards. So if my beta readers were like, yo, I don't have time to do this, and I'm like, cool, that's fine, just answer the questions. I will include them, and then we'll move on from the process. So you just have to be really flexible because beta readers are doing nice things for you for free. So
Exactly.
yes, okay. When should you recruit beta readers? So it just has to be after you have self-edited your manuscript so that you've caught at least the big initial major stuff. Depending on if you're getting a critique partner first, then you would recruit beta readers afterwards. But you can also recruit beta readers first if that's something you choose to do. Just whatever works best for your process. It just has to all be done before the professional edit. So all critique partners, all beta readers, before you send it to the professional people.
Right. I wanted to add, I know a lot of writers, especially their first time at the process, they'll recruit beta readers after the professional edit. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to work because you've already paid a professional to fix everything. The professional editor essentially gives you the okay, like, yes, this is ready for publication. And now you're getting feedback from beta readers, and the whole point of the feedback is for them to tell you what they don't like so you can fix it. So in that case, if you hire a professional editor and then recruit beta readers, you're going to have to hire another professional editor because that means you have to make all the, edits and changes that your beta readers have suggested, in which case you're going to need to hire another editor, and you've just wasted a ton of money. So definitely do not do that. And like Erin said, you're going to want to do it before or after you have self-edited the manuscript. What I like to tell people is get the manuscript as clean and polished as you can on your own or with critique partners. Get it to the point where you feel like this is the best I can do for now without a professional editor. Once you feel like you're in that position, that's when you recruit the beta readers, because you want them to be seeing the best version of your manuscript. You don't want them reading it and saying, this is filled with grammar errors and punctuation issues. And then you're like, oh yeah, I just haven't worked on that yet. That's not going to be helpful feedback. Work on the shit first and then recruit the beta readers.
Yes.
So what should you include? Oh, sorry. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. I talked into the headset. Oh my gosh. Okay. What a day. Okay, so what should you include in your recruitment of beta readers? A lot of people will just say, hey, do you like reading? Want to be a beta reader? This is a bad idea. This is how you're going to get a lot of flaky people, or you're going to get a lot of people who are not a good fit for your book. The entire point of the beta reader process is to get an idea of what readers think of your book. And by that, you should be looking at your target audience, people who you expect to buy the book. So if you are writing young adult romance, you shouldn't be recruiting people who only read Stephen King. So when you are recruiting for the beta reader process, let them know what the genre is. First and foremost, let them know what the target audience is. Is this a young adult book or is this an adult book? That's very important too, because a lot of people, for example, I pretty much only read adult books. And a lot of people only read young adult. A lot of people have a new adult preference, things like that. So let people know the genre and target audience. Let people know the word count, because if your book is super long, not everyone's got the time to read that. So just do them a solid, let them know the word count ahead of time. That way you don't get You don't recruit beta readers who really don't have the time to finish your manuscript, in which case their feedback is not going to be helpful because it's going to be unfinished. Give them a blurb. Let them know what the book is about. You know, little back of the book blurb. Try to make it sound as enticing as possible, or else no one's going to want to volunteer. Let them know your personal expectations from the process. If you expect them to finish the book in 2 weeks, let them know ahead of time. If you expect them to be very verbose in their feedback, let them know ahead of time. Which brings us to timelines. Let them know how long you expect this process to take, how often you expect to hear from them. And another thing I'd like to mention is give them trigger warnings if it's applicable. For example, my books are very cussy. My books are graphically violent. My books feature sexual situations. And I let them know ahead of time because you don't want someone to start reading the book and then they come back scandalized, or you find out that they are very triggered by a particular topic. Now you've just been an asshole and triggered this person. So let them know ahead of time so that certain people are not exposed to content that they normally wouldn't have chosen to be exposed to otherwise. It's just the nice thing to do.
Okay. So what information do you need to get from your beta readers during this recruitment process? So this is their demographic information, basically, that just helps you kind of know where they're coming from with whatever commentary and views they're going to be expressing. So at minimum, you're going to need an email and a social media because you need to be able to contact your beta readers. And it's good to have 2 options to do so, because what if your information goes to their spam folder and you don't hear from them? At least you can check and be like, hey, check your spam folder on whatever other method of contact you have for them. And then if you're interested in certain perspectives, then it just helps you get that info. So stuff like age, country of residence, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, religion, that kind of stuff will give you a more rounded view. And it also helps make sure that you are getting a diverse group of beta readers as much as you are able to do so with volunteers. It just helps make the process more balanced. And, you know, if you have specific questions, like obviously they are not a replacement for a sensitivity reader, but they're going to have knowledge that you might not have and be able to bring a little bit more of that information to the process.
Exactly. I know so many people who they'll be like, I had 20 beta readers. I don't know what the problem is. It turns out my book is really sexist. And it's like, well, were any of your beta readers women? No, you know, like it helps to get a well-rounded group of beta readers, a very diverse group of beta readers. Make sure you're getting opinions from a wide variety of different people because, like Erin said, they can let you know if you messed up on something that you have no personal experience on. Again, like she said, it does not replace sensitivity readers, but it is still very helpful. So how do you find beta readers? This is very similar, if not identical to critique partners. You can find them on social media. Like one of the commenters mentioned, you can find them on Goodreads. You can find them in writing groups, either online or in person. I have found so many beta readers just going to my personal Facebook page and saying, hey, who likes to read? Here's the information about my book. And then people that I went to high school with years ago are like, hey, I'll be a beta reader. Remember, you're just looking for people who like to read and like to read your genre. They don't have to be writers. So in theory, it should be easier to find beta readers because they don't need to have a particular skill set, essentially. If you have an author platform, which you should be working on, you can pull from your audience. When I first started my platform and my audience was very, very small, I pooled beta readers from Twitter because that was my largest platform at the time. And it was really easy. I just used the am writing and am reading hashtags, asked for beta readers that way, and I found a ton. Both Erin and I also, as I mentioned earlier, we have our exclusive writing groups over on Patreon, and we have channels devoted to finding beta readers on our Patreon writing groups. So again, you could always join writing groups such as that and find beta readers that way. One thing that I want to warn against is that if you recruit beta readers through your good friends and family, you can definitely, I'm trying to find a way to word this. You can definitely do that, but
they will probably say things that you can never unknow about them. And you may not enjoy that process.
Yeah, it'll lead to some awkward moments. I have experienced that myself, where I had a good friend from college beta read one of my books, and the beta reader process can be really revealing because people are saying what they like and dislike about characters, and that can reveal a lot of like psychology and personal psyche, and so you may learn things about people that can be distressing. So I'm trying to be put this as tactfully and vague as possible, but basically, good friends and family maybe aren't the best beta readers. You can recruit a few, but do so at your own risk. Acquaintances and people from your audience and just readers on the internet are a safer bet, because if you learn something scary about them, it's not going to ruin your life.
Yeah, just to add to that, another thing with getting friends and family to beta is if they don't like it, they may just try to never mention it again. And then you're going to have to follow up with them, and it can get weird. So just FYI, if you want to go that process.
Or they may just lie because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yes, that's true.
So
They could just lie.
with a grain of salt.
Okay, so we already kind of addressed how many beta readers you should have. Both of us try and get at least 20. If you're doing 10 beta readers per cycle, then you need at least 2 rounds of beta readers, and preferably more. It's good to have basically as many as you can get, because during this process, you can expect to lose a good chunk of your beta readers for a variety of reasons. I have a separate video on my channel that talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly of beta readers that goes deeper into this process, but you can definitely expect to lose several beta readers. So by the end of your process, you should probably try and have at least 20 people who have read the entire thing so that you get as much feedback as you can get.
Yeah, to add to that, I agree, at least 20 betas. The reason for this is you're trying to collect statistical data. I'm sorry, I'm getting into math and business. You're trying to collect statistical data, and if you only have 5 betas, it's not really a large enough pool to be able to determine trends within your book. For example, I go by the rule of 3, which is where if at least 3 betas have an issue with a scene, that means it's likely to create a trend. That means more people are going to have an issue with that scene. So if only 1 beta out of 20 has an issue with something, the odds are slim that it's going to be a recurring problem. But if at least 3 have that issue, that's something to address and look into. If you only have 5 betas, then it's going to be hard to enact the rule of 3, because that's 3/5 of your pool. But again, yes, I do cycles of 10. I like to have at least 20 by the end of it. I usually do 3 to 4 cycles. And as Erin said, a lot of people will fall off. Sometimes it's for the obvious. Maybe they're not into your book. Sometimes life just gets in the way. I've had betas go into labor and give birth to babies. And they're like, sorry, can't beta read anymore. I have a tiny human coming out of me. I've had betas have, family emergencies. I've had betas just be like, you know what, I didn't expect this to take as much time as it's taking, and I've got kids and obligations. So people fall off for a variety of reasons. So always try to get more than you think you'll need. So why are beta readers so important? I think we kind of already covered this, but it's to get a sample of your target audience's impressions of your book. It always blows my mind when people are like, I published a book and no one's ever read it. The entire point of a book is for it to be read. So just like companies beta test their products with potential consumers, beta reading is essentially your beta testing of your product. You want to make sure that the reading experience is enjoyable for readers because that is the entire point of your book. So that's why the process is important. I could go into a string of other reasons, but the main reason is if your book ain't fun to read, then it's not going to do its job in its existence, essentially. You want to make sure it's entertaining.
Okay, so we're on to our last step before we get to everyone else's questions. And this is, what sort of questions should you be asking your beta readers? So you want to go through and figure out what they thought of each of your characters. Besides your leads, you want like your secondary characters, ones who show up and have a purpose in the plot. And you may want to check in on character dynamics, like is the romance believable between these two people? Is their friendship believable? And all that kind of stuff. You want to figure out what they thought of every scene, what their favorite parts are, what their least favorite parts are, if they're confused by anything, if they would recommend your book to other people. If you have a plot twist or anything like that coming, you'll want to check in on if they have any predictions or theories about what's going to happen so that you can see if your twist is too easy for people to figure out. And then if they want to continue reading. So at the end of each chapter set, I basically like, how excited are you to read the next chapter? And that will not only give you an idea of if they're enjoying the book so far, but if your chapter endings are going to be prompting readers to turn the page.
Exactly. I completely agree. One thing I want to mention is sometimes people will see our list of questions like, what did you think of this character? What did you think of that character? What did you think of this scene? And they'll think, what's the point of asking these questions? All I really want to know is what was bad. What did they not like, and were they confused? The reason you want to ask about every character and scene is because even if the beta reader doesn't think anything was wrong with the scene, their feedback could let you know that there is an issue that your beta reader is completely oblivious to. For example, you could ask a character, what do you think of this character who is supposed to be the big bad villain. He's supposed to be a total asshole. No one is supposed to like him. He's terrible. And your beta reader says, oh my gosh, he's so sweet. He's so cute. I adore him. He's my favorite character. That lets you know you messed up. So you really want to ask about every facet that's occurring in these sections, because sometimes just because a beta reader liked the content doesn't mean they understood it. Doesn't mean that it came across the right way, doesn't mean that you did your job. Another reason to ask about all of these facets is because you may say, what did you think of Bob, the character Bob? And they're like, who's Bob? I don't remember Bob. What was there a Bob? And Bob's the most important character. You got to ask these questions because their feedback will be very revealing, even if they don't think it's going to be revealing. Sometimes I've had beta readers be like, I really enjoyed the whole chapter. I have nothing negative to say. I'm sorry if my feedback's not helpful, but their feedback is very helpful because they have no idea that they completely misinterpreted how I was meant to be portraying a character, and that lets me know I need to fix that character. So ask them everything, guys.
Okay, so that is all for our previously scripted questions, and we'll start going through the comments. I'm probably just going to scroll and go up and we'll answer. So Ashley G asks, do either of you have a question or page people might steal for their own writing? I don't, but I can provide that info to you if you DM me on any of my social medias. I can be like, just copy paste it, be like, here you go. Carol A. Gibbon asks, how many questions do you typically ask with each round of beta review? So in the list, I think there's like 11 or 12 questions total, and it will fluctuate based on the chapter, like how many scenes you have, how many characters are showing up. But there's kind of like 10 base questions.
Oh, I also wanted to add, if you're writing a massive cast like this bitch, it's going to be more questions, depending on the chapter. Because, like, for example, with the Savior's Champion in chapter 3, you meet nearly all the contestants of the tournament, and that's 20 guys. So every time I would prepare my beta readers for that review of that chapter beforehand, I'm like, I'm so sorry because there's like 30 questions because I introduced so many people. Please don't hate me. So yeah, just letting you know, it depends.
Okay, Dana Gollin asks, do those beta reader and cycle numbers apply to short stories and novellas? I would say yes, you should still be having as many beta readers as you can. The process is going to go a lot faster because it's shorter. So yeah, same process. Jenna?
I don't write short stories, so I can't say this with 100% certainty, but everyone that I know who writes short stories still does this process. They still have beta readers and they still do cycles of beta readers. And it's just like Erin said, it's a much quicker process because short stories are short.
Okay, Jamie's Pen Adventures asks, should your CP also beta read for you? I would say that they can, but you should definitely still have all those extra beta readers. They're not a replacement or anything.
Yeah, I honestly don't see the point in doing that because beta readers, you want the readers, the reader's reading experience. And if your critique partner has already critiqued your book, it's not a fresh new experience. They've already read all the things, they know what's coming. Unless you mean having them critique and beta read at the same time. But that's kind of just what the critique process sort of already is, because your critique partner will fix the writing, but they'll also tell you if the book is boring or if they didn't understand something. The comments will say things like, I don't get this line, what's going on here, or this scene's really slow. So the critique partner kind of already encompasses the beta reader process a little bit, so having them do both seems a little redundant.
Okay. Author JC Carpenter says, what are your thoughts about the need on betas on a book that you are republishing? I have never republished. Well, I kind of did with my first one, but I didn't change anything. It was just going from a company to my personal ownership. You can, if you want to. If there were issues with the previous one, like there were problematic parts or you weren't happy with how it turned out, then I guess if you want to take that time, go right ahead.
Right. I would say if you're changing things considerably or rewriting scenes, then yeah, have beta readers. But if you're only republishing it in this like way that Erin did, where she was going from a publishing house to self-publishing, or if you're just fixing some grammar or something like that, or reformatting it, there's probably not a point.
Okay. XOXO Haley M asks beta readers versus sensitivity readers. I would not say that this is a versus situation. This is a you need to have both situation. Sensitivity readers are just people that are part of a marginalized group that are going to read your manuscript and point out problematic elements and anything that has to do with their marginalization. So if you are writing marginalized characters, you should have a sensitivity reader go over it and make sure that you haven't written terrible things by accident.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not an either or situation. I have a handful of critique partners. I have 20 plus beta readers, and I have several sensitivity readers. Lots of people are going to read your book before it comes out, so just get used to that idea right now. But yeah, it's definitely not a versus situation. You probably need both. But you just don't need like 20 sensitivity readers, but you will need some.
Author Morgan Lee says, did you come up with your own questions to ask, or did you find a questionnaire online? I got my base ones from Jenna from one of your beta reader videos. And then I just like modified for my stuff. Tamara also says both of our voices are way deeper than normal. So I don't know what's causing that, but if you can understand us, we're just gonna keep moving along.
Yeah, I made the questions up. I just made them up based on what, I wanted to know about the book. So like I would go through, basically every chunk gets the same base questions, which are, I always ask them to give me their initial thoughts, which is just anything that's off the top of their head that they wanted to say before they forget, because going through the process, I've realized that if I don't say this, I have so many betas going, oh, I wanted to mention something, I can't remember what it was. So I tell them at the beginning to just say whatever's on their mind, because half the time, if they say that, that means they noticed a mistake and now they have forgotten what it is and they can't tell you. So I tell them to give their initial reactions at the start, whether that's, oh my gosh, that's crazy, what a cliffhanger, or it's, you messed up XYZ. Then I ask for their favorite parts and why, their least favorite parts and why, and I ask them about the main character, what they think of the main character. And then I have base questions for the end, which are for them to rate what they've read, rate how excited they are to continue reading, what their predictions and theories are, and was anything confusing? Is there anything they have questions about? Was anything, hard to understand? The questions in the middle all change depending on the chunk. So for example, if I'm beta reviewing The Savior's Sister and Delphi shows up in this chunk, I'm going to ask about Delphi. If she's not in the chunk, I'm not going to ask about her. If someone dies in this section, I'm going to ask about that death scene. If no one dies, I'm not going to ask about it. And I would also mention, if there is a scene or a character that you are particularly concerned about and you don't know if it's coming across correctly, make sure you ask about that. Make sure you say, was it clear XYZ was happening? Make sure you cover that.
Okay, Carol A. Gibbon asks, how do you do beta reading for a series of books, for example, if they haven't read the first book? So that is what I am coming up on right now, where I'm going, my sequel for Heart and Soul is with my critique partners right now, and it's getting ready for beta readers. I would say that you would want to have kind of a mix of people who have read the first book and who haven't, because you don't really know where people are going to be entering your series from. Like, you hope it's book one, but we all know that that's not always going to be the case. So if someone picks up book two or a later book, are they going to be able to kind of get the gist of what's going on? Are they going to be able to get to know the characters in the same way? Like, you can't rely fully on book one to make your readers fall in love with book two. So I think it's good to have a mixture of people in that case.
I agree. That's what I did with The Savior's Sister. I think most of my betas had read The Savior's Champion, but certainly not all of them. I wanted a mix. And if you can get a mix, I would encourage it. If your first book maybe wasn't that popular, it might be, or if not a lot of people read your first book, maybe it had a softer launch. It might be harder to get a mix. You might be getting mostly betas who are new to the second book. I would recommend getting a mix if possible, but if you can't, take what you can get. Feedback is feedback.
Okay, Maya asks, I'm kind of confused still on the differences between critique partners and beta readers. So it's literally just critique partners are other writers and beta readers are just readers. They don't have to have any of those additional credentials.
Yes.
Raisa Kaba, I don't know if I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. How long does this process take for each cycle, and how about for critique partners? I would say probably consider about 10,000 words per week. So if you have an 80,000 word manuscript, it's going to take 2 months. Critique reading and beta reading is a lot more in-depth than fun reading, so it's going to take longer. I would not have any expectations for people to be reading more than 10,000 words per week. And, some might. I had a few people finish my whole manuscript in 2 weeks, and other ones took almost 3 months. So you just have to be flexible, but definitely plan for 10,000 words per week.
I agree.
Let's see. Looking for questions. Send Seriousness asks, how long of a deadline do you give your beta readers for your work? That kind of depends on if you have a deadline. Like I said, the 10,000 words per week. So that'll give you kind of like a base deadline. If you have professionals booked, then you'll have to make your beta readers aware of that. Let them know, be like, we expect to be finished on whatever date based on, how long your book is. And then otherwise, the deadline is really up to you. But definitely let your beta readers know if you have one so that they can try and keep to it.
I agree. A lot of people hear, oh my gosh, 10,000 words, per week. That's going to be so long, such a long process. But keep in mind that writing and publishing a book involves so many steps. You're going to have so much stuff to do that the fact that this is taking a long time usually isn't going to matter. Like for me, I'm going to be doing self-edits while the beta reader process is going. Self-edits take a long time. I'm going to be filming videos for my author platform. Videos take a long time. So just remember that the publishing process is long in general. It's not like you're going to be sitting and twiddling your thumbs while you're waiting for them to read. So in general, plan for publishing a book to be a long, slow process. And beta reviews are another part of the slowness. It's just kind of how it goes.
Okay, author JC Carpenter asks, since no book is ever really going to be perfect, when can you be sure that you can say, okay, this is finished now, even if the person critiquing or beta reading your book is saying it's not? So I would say when you're going through your beta readers, you want majority of them to be saying that the book is good. Like you don't want to be like, oh yeah, this is finished now if 70% of your beta readers are bringing up consistent issues. Usually the first few rounds of beta reading are obviously going to be the roughest because your work is going to get more polished as you go. You don't want too many of them to be having issues because those are things that you need to fix. Like Jenna said, with the rule of 3, you have 3 or more beta readers that are complaining about something in particular, and you need to be able to fix that before you're done.
I also wanted to add, you mentioned, how do you know you're finished, even if critique partners and beta readers say that you're not? If critique partners and beta readers are saying your book is not finished and needs work, it probably is not finished and needs work. I usually know I'm ready for the professional edit once around 90% of my beta feedback is positive. Once, like Erin said, once it's a majority positive, 90% understood, not confusing, that remaining 10% can get tackled by the professional editor. But if you're still going through a round and beta readers and critique partners are saying, nah, you got work to do, they're probably right. It's not ready to move on.
Jamie's Pen Inventors ask, how do you organize all the edits from betas? I actually have a video specifically about my entire organizational process for beta readers, so definitely check that out on my channel.
It's really good. I copied her method. So just watch that video.
Okay. Juanita K, should you get beta readers only after you have a finished manuscript? At what point do you find them? Yes, your manuscript should be finished. You should have at least self-edited it before you're letting other humans in to look at it. And then you just recruit them right before you're ready for them. You usually don't want to wait too long beforehand because otherwise they'll probably forget and then you'll send it and they'll be like, what the hell is this?
Oh, I agree.
Okay. Bring back. Bhavana asks, does geographical location of the partner play a big role? I'm from India and it's hard to find other Indian writers, let alone find someone who's a good fit. Any advice? I would say as long as they can read your book. Like if you're writing a book in English, obviously you can have a critique partner from anywhere. If you're writing it in a specific language, then you obviously need a critique partner that can read and write that language. But like Jenna and I were critique partners. She's in California, I'm in Alberta. So, and like my other critique partners are in Belgium and Pennsylvania and Arizona. So, I mean, there's not really any barriers to where you can find a critique partner because this is the age of the internet. As long as you are awake at some point together so that you can discuss things, it's that's probably the only real requirement.
Yeah, I mean, the echo. So long as they are a reflection of your target audience and they read or in terms of critique partners, potentially write your genre, it's fine. I had beta readers from India. I have a critique partner who lives in Africa. Geographical location doesn't really matter.
Okay, this will probably be our last question because it is noon now. So Cheryl Gilmore asks, what do you do if a good friend wants to critique your book, but you know they aren't good at it? Or do you want them? How do you tell them without hurting them? Well, if your good friend is not another writer, then you can be like, hey, critique partners are only other writers. So then you're totally fine there. I guess you could let them beta read if you really want to, or just be like, I don't think that what I'm writing is going to be a good fit for you. I don't know that you would enjoy it. And yeah, sending.
I think it would also help. I agree with everything Erin said, but you could mention what you are specifically looking for in the critique partner process and how it might not be a good fit for them. So for example, say they are a writer, say they love the genre you're writing. So you can't say, oh, darn, I'm writing dark fantasy and you hate that. They're like, I love dark fantasy. You could say, you know what, I'm specifically looking for critique partners who are very into insert writing technique here. And I know that's not your forte, so darn it, not this time, maybe sometime in the future.
Okay, so we do have to end the stream because everything in the retreat kind of runs in a little clockwork pattern. So thank you so much to everyone who came and watched the stream today and anyone in the future who's going to watch the stream. Thank you to Jenna for joining me and Tamara for asking us to do this workshop. I hope you all learned a whole bunch, and I will see you in one of my future videos. Swing it to Jenna.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Be sure to subscribe to our channels. Thank you to Tamara for inviting us. It was a huge honor. Sorry for the technical difficulties. hope you still learned a lot and had fun. I know I had fun, so I hope you had fun too.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.